Jason, I'm excited to have this conversation with you today because it's sort of a precursor to the symposium session that you and Stacy are going to do in a little less than a month away.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's about retirement living options. I know that you personally have been doing a lot of research and are going to share your knowledge not only here today on the podcast, but also at the symposium in terms of what you've learned about the options that are available to you as it relates to retired living. Before we get into that, I just noticed some stats that I believe Ian pulled for this, and 70% of us will need some kind of long-term care support after 65. And then 75% of adults over the age of 50 wish to remain in their current home, and 73% want to stay in their community. Obviously, those stats are alarming, and there's a want versus a need. And being in the community, being in your community, living in the Valley for as long as you have, that was a really important point.
Yeah, we were looking, and we are still looking. We haven't made a determination yet, but one option was a adult community in Camarillo, but we just don't want to leave the San Fernando Valley because we've been here I moved out in California in 1966 and have lived in the Valley since that period of time. My wife grew up in the San Fernando Valley, so as attractive an option in Camarillo might be, it's just a deal breaker to leave our current community.
Definitely. And so when you think about the different options that people have, obviously staying at home, then there's independent living or assisted living, and then if needed, there's memory care, skilled nursing, and other emerging models kind of beyond that. As you've been doing some research and attending a number of the different options available to you, walk me through kind of what you've learned and sort of the pros and cons of each one. Because you mentioned like a Class A property standing out to you as, yes, I definitely want that. And I think that's something that, people can benefit from learning.
Yeah, one of the differences that we've determined in a couple of different adult communities, the one at this point that we're leaning towards, which is in the Warner Center brand new complex, not yet built, is what's deemed to be a Class A facility, which means that included in your monthly fee, which covers rent and food and utilities, etc., that should either spouse get to a point where they require memory care or assisted living, and that spouse needs to move into a different unit, that your costs do not increase. You're basically prepaying as part of your monthly fee for that contingency. Advantage is, well, that's a lot of money you're going to save if it turns out it's necessary. Disadvantage is if both of you stay healthy until the day you pass, you've paid a extra sum of money each and every month for a service that isn't going to be required. One of the other adult communities that we looked at, which wasn't Class A, basically if your health deteriorated and you needed memory care or assisted living, they provided that, but at that point your costs would go up based on market costs at that time.
Got it. So, you're basically buying insurance now to have the cost be a little bit cheaper than if it was needed later on.
That's, I think, an appropriate assessment of that option, yes.
So we talked a little bit in sort of our prep call for this, that you've run, a financial projection with a number of these different options. Staying in your current home, estimating some costs. Obviously, there's some unknown around, how much care will you need? How much does it cost? You're looking at creative options in terms of, seeing if there's a student that's going to college nearby that's in the nursing program, maybe they can assist. You're also evaluating the large upfront cost of, something like Wisteria, where you pay a large upfront fee and then a monthly service available to it.
Correct.
How much does cost matter to you when you're looking at some of these different options? And what does that cost look like?
All right.
In ballpark figures?
Well, I actually did the numbers day before yesterday, and Sandy and I sat down yesterday to review them. I wanted her to be aware of the dollars and cents of this potential transaction. Just to share with you specifically, the cost for us to stay in our home, which we added up, mortgage, which is a minimal expense, property taxes, pool service, gardener, utilities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, cost us about $6,000 a month. The monthly fee at Wisteria for the unit that we have for the moment chosen costs $11,000 a month. So there's a $5,000 a month difference between staying in our home versus moving to Wisteria. So obviously we wanted to make sure that, okay, we can absorb that additional expense comfortably. Now certain costs go down when we move to Wisteria, if we do. The monthly fee includes a meal allowance and includes your utilities, and certainly insurance costs would drop, et cetera. But bottom line, the Wisteria option is going to cost us an additional $60,000 to $70,000 a year in outgo. Plus, you have an upfront fee, which, based on the unit you choose, I think the smallest upfront fee was $750,000, and the largest was $2 million. And basically, at your death, and or if you move out after 5 years, they refund 75% of your entry fee. You don't earn interest on that, so you have the time value of money eating away at that refund, which is another factor. Yeah. So there are a lot of pieces to the puzzle. I looked at another adult community which does not require an upfront fee, just first and last month's rent. It's called the Variel, on Variel in Warner Center area. And the monthly fee for that option for a similar unit was $20,000 a month instead of $11,000. And I ran the numbers between Wisteria and the Variel, assuming that you were able to then invest the entry fee that you didn't have to come up with at 6% return. And basically, after 3 years, the Variel is really a more expensive option. So in spite of the large entry fee, Wisteria still pencils out to be financially a more attractive alternative. Plus, the Variel was not a Class A facility, so you had that piece of the puzzle as well.
So since Variel is not a Class A, if you needed memory care or some sort of assisted living, you're going to have to go to a different property.
Well, you could stay. They have those services available on site, but if the spouse at that point needed that level of service and moved into a different part of the complex and a different residence, then you'd have to pick up the costs for that additional residence.
Got it. As we were also talking, the community aspect is really important. It's not just the location, but you're an avid pickleball player. You're active. You like to be around people. It's why I've enjoyed working with you for so many years here. Looking into this option now allows you to still have that sense of community and people to enjoy activities with, which is a big plus as well.
That, for me, is the biggest positive. I'm kind of a stay-at-home guy, and so I don't have a lot of initiative in going out and doing stuff.
Unless it's a cruise with music.
Music cruise, yeah. Or we go to Cabo a couple times a year. But I know that for my mental health, my emotional health, I would be better served being in a community with a lot of activities. Wisteria, like University Village in Thousand Oaks, it's the same provider. 10 in the morning till 6 in the evening, pretty much every day. They've got activities every hour or two, from bridge or mahjong or pickleball or lectures, painting, et cetera, et cetera. So that is, again, the biggest positive for me, is the knowledge that if this is the move we make, that I'll have the opportunity to make a whole new batch of friends.
Well, and I found that interesting because oftentimes when I've thought about sort of retirement living options, it goes down this route of, finding a community kind of like Wisteria or Varial that you're looking at to be able to move into. But then it reminded me of a couple client situations, and even my parents. I've had clients that have moved to a new location, and so maybe they moved from LA to Santa Barbara or San Diego to Portland, Oregon, or even to Chicago. And they have these newcomers clubs to where if you're new to that city or that location, you can participate in these newcomers groups where there's activities and things for you to do for a couple of years to meet that sense of community and those new friends. Then beyond that, my parents, when they moved from Chicago back to Southern California, they found an age 55 and up community out there in Palm Springs, Palm Desert area, and they've loved it. They made a lot of new friends. It was a brand new community. They got involved in pickleball and other games and activities, and that really helped them kind of get acclimated to living in a new place that they've been gone from for a long time.
Yeah, another plus I don't get a piece of the action from Wisteria, so this is not a testimonial. But that's a brand new community. It's not yet built. Occupancy is projected to be second, third quarter next year. So if that's the route we go, everybody will be new together. Whereas if you move into an existing community like the Variel, you're the new kid on the block. And I think that would be obviously a little bit more difficult in terms of the transition. Another plus that we like about Wisteria, it's a large complex. There are going to be 3 or 4 different restaurants on site. It's going to take up several blocks. And it'll be like its own village where the Variel is like a large apartment complex. Yeah. So it has a little bit more of a community feel than apartment living. And my wife has never lived in an apartment. And one of the issues that became an issue of relevance was we were on vacation and we were staying in a lovely room, suite, and it was about 2,400 square feet. And my wife said to me, is the unit that we've got reserved at Wisteria about this size? And I said, no, it's about 1,400 square feet. And she looked at me and said, I don't know that I want to live with you within a 1,400 square foot environment. So the decision has not yet been made, and it may, in fact, wind up being, we haven't seen a physical unit yet. They're not built. They're not available. We've seen a floor plan. But, if we walk into that apartment and it's just not going to work, that'll be the deal breaker. We do have a reservation for a larger unit, but we're on a waiting list for that. So, again, a lot of pieces to the puzzle.
It is pretty incredible, though, the new buildings today that might be, 13, 15, 1,600 square feet, how much bigger they seem because of the open concept layout and how they're, redesigning things today versus stuff that was 13, 1,400 square feet that was built in the 80s or 90s.
Yeah. Like
the home I live in, I think it's 1,500 square feet. It was built in the late 80s. There are aspects of it where it feels very small, whereas if you go to some of these newer places, they feel a lot larger.
Yeah, well, we hope that it will be large enough.
Me too. Jason, I've enjoyed the conversation today. Again, this is just a precursor for the symposium session that you and Stacy are going to be doing here at our symposium on October 22nd. So if you're interested in learning more about the retirement living options that are available to you, the pros and cons, and what we've learned throughout this process, please come join. Jason, thank you so much.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.